The rain outside had just begun to ease, leaving streaks of water dripping down the cafe's wide glass windows. Inside, the air smelled of fresh espresso and warm bread. Customers chatted, scrolling on their phones, the soft hum of conversation mixing with the hiss of the coffee machine. At the very back of the line stood Maya, a middle-aged cleaner in her worn gray uniform. Her hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her hands still smelled faintly of bleach and floor polish. She rubbed a calloused thumb across the last few crumpled bills she had in her pocket, whispering to herself, just enough for a small coffee. It'll keep me awake till the next shift. In front of her, a tall man in a tailored navy suit stepped up to the counter. His polished shoes clicked against the floor, and his watch gleamed under the lights. He carried himself with quiet confidence, the kind that made people instinctively move out of the way. "Large cappuccino, oat milk. And, that breakfast sandwich, please," he said smoothly, handing his sleek black card to the cashier. The cashier swiped it. A beep. Then frowned. "I'm sorry, sir. It says declined." The man's brows knitted together. "That can't be right. Try again." Another swipe. Same result. The line grew restless. A young couple behind them whispered impatiently. Someone sighed loudly. The suited man's cheeks flushed faintly as he searched his wallet, realizing he hadn't brought cash. His composure faltered for just a second, but he quickly straightened, forcing a smile as though the mishap were beneath him. Maya watched quietly, shifting on her tired feet. She could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers tapped against the counter in frustration. She knew that kind of embarrassment too well, the helplessness of wanting something small but being unable to pay. Her eyes lowered to the coins in her palm. "It's all I have," she thought. "But maybe it's enough, for both of us." Before the cashier could announce the next customer, Maya stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. "I'll cover it." The man turned, startled, his blue eyes meeting hers for the first time. She held out her worn bills toward the cashier. The cashier hesitated, glancing at her faded uniform, then back at the impatient line. Finally, she took the money and rang up the order. The suited man blinked, momentarily speechless. Maya gave him the smallest of smiles, her eyes kind but tired. "It's just coffee," she murmured. "Everyone deserves a good start to their day." Then, without waiting for a thank you, she stepped back, her gaze already shifting to the floor as though she wanted to disappear back into the background. But the man kept staring at her, silently shaken by a stranger's generosity. The story of their lives had just quietly intersected. The suited man carried his coffee to a corner table, still processing what had just happened. He sat down slowly, the porcelain cup warm in his hand, but his thoughts elsewhere. Alexander Cole. That was his name. Known across business magazines as a ruthless billionaire CEO, the man who turned failing companies into empires. His face had graced glossy covers, his speeches quoted at conferences, his watch alone worth more than some people's annual salary. And yet, a cleaner, a woman whose uniform still smelled faintly of disinfectant, had just paid for his coffee when his own platinum card had failed. He glanced across the cafe. Maya was sitting by the window, her small cup of black coffee cupped in both hands as though it were precious. She stared out at the rain, shoulders a little hunched, her expression calm but tired. She didn't look at him again, didn't seem to want recognition. Why? He thought. Why would someone with so little give up what might have been her last few dollars? For me, he shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't used to being on the receiving end of charity. Normally, people wanted something from him, access, influence, favors. Generosity always had a price. But this was different. She hadn't even waited for a thank you. Alex brought the cup to his lips, but the coffee tasted different, bitter in a way he couldn't ignore. He thought of the corporate gala he had left last night, the diamond necklaces, the champagne towers, the way people laughed too loudly at his jokes. All of it glittering, all of it empty. And then here was this woman, who gave without hesitation, even if it cost her everything she had for the day. His chest tightened with something unfamiliar, shame, gratitude, maybe even humility. For the first time in a long while, Alexander felt small. The rain outside streaked harder against the glass, and he couldn't stop glancing at her, wondering who she was. He had built empires, commanded boardrooms, and crushed competitors, but in that quiet moment, he realized a simple cleaner had just shaken him in a way no business rival ever could. Alexander sat in his corner for several long minutes, battling with himself. The CEO in him wanted to maintain distance, keep the world neatly divided between those who served and those who ruled. But the man in him, stripped by her quiet kindness, felt compelled to cross the line. Finally, he rose, adjusted